Hey everybody, it's been a coon's age since we worked on our Project Ranch Rod pickup. Did the update video a while back and like absolutely nothing happened after that. So it's time to pick up from there and start making a list on what all we need to get done before this thing will breathe some fire. One of the things, it's 17th of June right now. There's actually a dyno day coming up on July 5th. And I would like to get this running in time for that if I can. I kind of need some sort of deadline to have some motivation to try to get this thing done. So I'm going to start making a list, and then let's see how much stuff we have on tabs here and start checking one thing off after the other and try to get this thing ready to go. I'm sure this isn't all of it. This is what I came up with without even having to think that hard. And that is a little bit scary. So we'll start at the top. So we gotta wire our Fitech unit in. I have to rob the old coil off of the 360. The reason for that is for this first initial startup with that dual points distributor. Factory wiring will wire right up to it, and that'll be a quick way to start us off. Ultimately, we'll switch over to that EFI coil, and that's what we'll use, but temporary. We need to wire power through a relay for our fuel pump to get power there. We have the fluid side done, but not the electrical side. Vacuum hoses, that's for miscellaneous whatever, including to my power brakes booster. Fill radiator, so there's nothing in it right now. All the hoses are on there. I need to fill fuel filler hose, and I need to verify the tank doesn't leak because I had put the fuel bung at the bottom, and so hopefully that doesn't leak. So tank is mostly installed, but that was one of the things I want to do before I finish up there. Need to verify grounds because I have a few that are just kind of hanging out. Wire the alternator. So I need to go to the original pickup harness. When I say the original pickup harness, I mean from my 91, and steal some of the good stuff I need there. Wire that in. I don't even have a battery at this point. I might steal it off my 72 to get us going for now, but I don't even have a battery. Exhaust, there's headers right now, that's it. Verify timing, but I need to prime the oil first. I did prime it once upon a time. Verify oil was getting everywhere, and it did, but that's been a long time ago. So that'll be one of those last minute things before first fire. We'll prime the oil, make sure we're getting it everywhere. We will verify our timing, and that'll be the last things to do before we turn the key. And then radiator hose clamps, that's of course easy thing to do here. So we better get snapping if we're going to get anything crossed off and have any hope of getting this thing on a dyno here in a couple weeks. Now this is just for first startup, just to make sure I can get break in on the cam and that sort of stuff. Make sure my Fitech, it was working on my 72, but it's been, I don't know, probably a couple of years now. That's scary since it was last run, so hopefully it'll still work. But once I get done there, then we'll be using this MSD box for the ignition. We'll be using the TFI distributor off that EFI 460. I think that'll work. Hopefully I don't run into any phase rotor alignment. And then of course we'll get rid of the air filter and we get our connection from our supercharger over to the Fitech. So we got two phases. What we're looking at right here, this is just phase one. But luckily, I don't think it'll take too much to switch over to phase two. Time to look back our list, see if we've actually made any sort of progress here. So we did cross off a few things, not as much more. It's taken longer than I would have thought. So what I have here is vacuum hose is one of them. So brake booster. So I went ahead there and got that one snaked in. Going back into the vacuum tree there. I also got those other fittings there on that vacuum tree capped. So that takes care of brake booster and vacuum caps. PCV hose is another thing. So we had bought a PCV fitting right there, and it snakes into that port on the Fitech. It's a little hard to see, but it's right there in front of you. So as far as I'm concerned, vacuum hose standpoint, we are done. Okay, yeah, still lots more stuff we didn't do. Battery cables, we did get the positive battery cable on, which is over there. Come to find out I had one that would have worked, but I guess this one's nice and shiny, so that's good. Also the starter cable, I got that connected, so got here from the solenoid. Kind of snakes around the front of the headers and then connects down into the starter there. And I think the way that it's all tightened up and stuff, I don't know that that starter cable can really get back into those headers. I need to get a good measurement for my negative cable there before I go ahead and finish that. And so, geez, yeah, not a lot of stuff there on the list. Although, I did start on the exhaust. I've been putting that off for a heck of a long time. Let me crawl underneath the pickup and show you where I'm at. Sure wish I had a lift. It's gonna be kind of hard to show what all I have going on here. Let me get my light in a better spot. So I have my headers coming down here, and there's my collector. In this case, not a collector reducer, but a short little collector extension. And I had found the location I wanted for the muffler. Sitting back there, it kind of tucks it up in the frame rails. Both these 3-inch exhausts are coming to the same side. So that's where I want it to be. Took me a little bit of cutting here and there. At first, I had this straight piece too long, which put this run too low. So it took me a lot of cutting back and forth to finally get it. For those of you that probably built exhaust before, you're thinking, wow, dude, that was easy. You really made that tough and your welds look like crap. You're right in all accounts there. But this is the easy side, and so I think I'm starting to get a little more of the hang of it. And so one of the things that's nice is that if I can at least get this driver's side to there as well, I can go ahead and put my bung in for my EFI, and I can go ahead and get it started then. So that would be a good thing. So the other one is going to be a lot tougher because this needs to come down and kind of snake, I think, between the oil pan and the transmission and come over to the same side. So I'll have to really scratch my noggin on that one. So it's continuing to make some progress. Still got a way to go. Before I forgot about it, before it got too difficult, I went ahead and got my bung welded in for my O2 sensor for the Fitech. So you can see this is the collector there. So found a good spot where it's not going to interfere with the transmission or anything like that. And it's basically, it's nice and easy to weld it here on the ground, and definitely trying to do it underneath. So I think we're done with this little stub piece. Go ahead and get my O2 sensor screwed in there, put some anti-seize on it, get it plugged in, and now the hard part of working on the driver's side exhaust. That should be a fun one. Have I ever mentioned how cool a lift would be? Luckily, no lift for me. So at least this pickup's 4-wheel drive, tires a little bit bigger. In fact, tires are flat. Maybe I'll share them up a little bit. That'd help me just a skosh. Anyway, here's the challenge. So we come out of this, the headers here, and we have a collector. We have the oil pan right there. We have our front drive shaft right here. I already seen a longer straight piece out of that collector hits the pan. So I went ahead and cut the collector off pretty short. And I'm gonna have to start angling at that point. So gotta hug fairly tight to the pan so we give the drive shaft as much room as it needs to. And then we're gonna have to kinda, once again, I don't know, can I zoom out? Oh geez, yeah, that helped a lot. Okay, so then we're gonna have to kinda come, and we're gonna have to curve, and we're gonna have to, if we can, kinda come between the oil pan and this dust cover where the clutch is. And we're going to have to come over to the passenger side of the pickup so that we can come into this space here and go over to our exhaust. Of course, everybody knows that, you know, if you have a 4-wheel drive and you got your transfer case and your drive shaft on this side, you can't come back on the driver's side. So you have to make that transition anyway. A little bit of luck from this angle. So once again, there's our drive shaft, there's our header. We have to come down, we have to cross over, we have to 90 again, we have to line up with our muffler there. So that's what we're trying to do. So it's going to take a little bit of head scratching and tacking some stuff together and trying to find the right angle for us to make those transitions and get to where we need to be. But I think we'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time. This video is not solely about building exhaust, but thought I'd show you a few things that I'm doing in case you try to do it by yourself. I don't have a lot of fancy tools here that I'm working with, to be honest with you, so there's a lot of eyeballing. Every now and then I've been using the angle gauge on my phone, of all things, to help try to figure out my right angles. I use a hose clamp. This is all mandrel bent exhaust tubing, so theoretically it's round, it's supposed to be round, and so your hose clamp can really go in any position. And a hose clamp, once you tighten it up a little bit, and kind of give it a little bit of a rotation here and there, it actually sits pretty square on it, so it should give you a good line. I go ahead and use, you could use any marker. I love the Milwaukee markers. So I mark me a line. I go ahead and I cut things off with a death wheel on a grinder. And then one of the things I really do like this. I have this sander. It has the disc and then it has the belt on it. So I use that belt portion of it to go ahead and kind of true things up as best I can before I tack things together with the welder. And then a lot of checking back and forth to make sure it's all going to work. So I'm not doing anything fancy at all. I will say that if you don't have one of these disc or belt sanders, this one happened to come from Harbor Freight, but they are really worth their weight in gold for any sort of fab type stuff to help true things up. It just makes the welds that much easier, that much better. So anyway, that's a little quick tech tip on what I'm doing anyway to build exhaust. Pretty rudimentary, but it'll work for pretty much anybody and everybody. So I'm not going to claim the exhaust is beautiful, but at least getting up to the muffler, we are in there. The muffler ended up sitting cocked a little bit. That's not supposed to happen, but I screwed up, ran out some clearance here on this clutch dust cover. If it sits a little bit at an angle like that, probably not a huge deal. I do have to put some hangers in, probably here at the muffler. Got some clamps in some different spots where the slip joints are. I don't know that I'm going to do much more exhaust past this for right now. If I can at least get that muffler hung, then that'll give me a spot where I can go ahead and I can at least get this thing fired up, and I could run around for a while if I wanted to. So I think I'm going to call this good for exhaust for now. Sometimes some of these things on this project list are like 1 step forward, 2 steps back, or in this case like 1 step forward and 4 or 5 steps back. So there's that little one, fill radiator. Seems really easy. All you gotta do is pour antifreeze into your radiator. And so while I was working on exhaust yesterday, I thought it's a good chance I'll go ahead and put antifreeze in. If there's any leaks or anything, I gotta pay attention, but should be a done deal. So I put it in there, and I happen to notice, sure as crap, something is leaking, a slow drip. And when I take a look from underneath, it looks like it's from the weep hole of the water pump. And so that water pump was existing with the engine. It was something that I just assumed it was good. I went back together with it. And so now, not on my list was replace water pump. And so, not that that's a huge thing, but of course I got, this bracketry that needs to come off, which, okay, not a big deal. But then the supercharger, some of those brackets kind of go through where the water pump is and stuff like that. So I'm going to have to, at least there's some of these standoff brackets. I think if I loosen some bolts, I won't have to take the entire supercharger off, but I think some of those little standoff, you can kind of see bushings there, I'll call it, spacers. I think that some of those will come out, and then I probably have room to go ahead and wiggle my water pump out. So once again, not the end of the world, not something I can't do, but definitely something I wasn't planning on doing. So here we go, let's add to the list. So how big a mess is it to get to the water pump? Actually not that bad. So this bracket here that is for the AC compressor, which I'm not running right now, and the power steering pump, I was actually able to just kind of put it out of the way. And for those of you that are in ranch country, baling string is definitely an improved thing to help hold stuff out of the way, so make sure you have your towing on hand. As far as the supercharger head bracket, I went ahead and loosened a lot of these standoff bolts. There is one that goes actually through the water pump, and that has a spacer there. And so once I loosen things up a little bit, then that spacer comes out. I think looking at it, I think there'll be enough room to go ahead and get that water pump pulled out of there with that spacer bracket gone. So I think this is about as far deep as I need to go. So of course now I have to unhook a few hoses, take some bolts out, and I think we can get to the water pump. So maybe it's not gonna be that big a deal. It's just definitely something I wasn't looking forward to. How are we doing the water pump? Well, you know, we're getting fairly close. You know, and you can't get a water pump out without putting a bunch of water on the floor. I mean, I drained the radiator, but of course, it gets most of it, not all of it. And you know what? I'd have made way less of a mess if I would have taken the water pump out before, but you don't know they leak until you put water in them. It's such a weird, crappy circle. But I found another fun thing. So there's this one bolt down here. Kind of see it right there. It's a longer bolt, goes in the water passage, has some sealant and stuff on it. And I was hoping it would come far enough out that it would disengage from that housing there so I could pull the water pump forward and get it out. Guess what? That is not the case. That bracket needs a little notch in it to be able to make this all work. So I went ahead and, kind of seeing marker there in my Sharpie, I went ahead and marked where clearance should be. You know, it's one of those things, you just never know how good something's going to work until you have to actually do stuff. So I happen to have a die grinder. I'm going to take the die grinder and I'm going to open up where that notch is, and I think if I angle a little bit, that'll allow the head to sink just enough. Get that whole thing out of there, but that's something that Torque Storm, you know, if they're to watch it, maybe I'll send a suggestion on. It'd be a good idea to just put a notch in that entire bracket to allow that bolt to come out. You know, in case someone ever has to change out a water pump, which, you know, never happens. So that's what I'm finding. So make some shavings fly, open me a notch, get that bolt out so I can jerk this water pump out. All right, where are we at now? So we went ahead and we got the new water pump put on, and so we got this whole mess put back together. And so after we got that put back together, we were able to put antifreeze in our radiator, and I've checked it multiple times here over a decent period of time, and hey, it holds water. So now we can technically cross fill radiator off our list. That was a lot of work to cross one thing off the list. Okay, wire Fitech, yeah, we're not done there. Verify tank doesn't leak. We verified that the tank does leak. Get battery. So if we look in here, we have a battery. We have battery cables, although I have the negative not attached for right now. So check. We have gotten our battery, so we can cross get battery off our list. One of the things then, when I was working on wiring the Fitech, trying to finish that up, I went ahead and put the battery in, and even though it's not a permanent connection, I was going to check to see if I had positive on both sides of the coil with key on, provide key on power to the Fitech. Nothing. I'm not getting anything. And I went ahead and I checked different spots in the pickup. I don't have any voltage there. Checked the fuse panel, nothing. So I was getting a little bit confused here about what the heck's going on and why don't I have anything. Then I remembered something. So since I was going to this alternator from this 460, I went ahead and took off the external voltage regulator. What I also did is I unplugged this harness. This is the harness that goes to the factory 69 Ford alternator. It's also the circuit that goes to the voltage regulator and all that good stuff. I think when I was tracing wiring around though, I think you need that harness because I think it actually passes voltage through here. I think it goes to the voltage regulator. I think it comes back, and that actually is what goes inside the pickup. So that is why I don't have any power inside the pickup. So one of the things I need to do, I need to modify that harness some because it's once again set up for external regulator, which I don't need anymore, and also for that old 1G style alternator. I think this is a 2G alternator. It probably would be better. I should probably upgrade to a 3G, like I have over here in my 72. But for now, we're just going to make this 2G work. So I'm going to modify that wire harness, get that all plugged in there. And once I get that plugged in there, then I hopefully should have positive to the positive side of my coil, which should make it so that I can go ahead and finish wiring my Fitech. So that is what we're going to do. I believe we've entered into the 5th level of hell. And so here's that original harness. And so what do we got? This is the original plug. Went to the alternator. That's the plug that went to the voltage regulator. Just see what was going on here. I went ahead and took all the old tape off it so I could get a better look at what was doing what as far as our wiring. And so I need to get rid of some of the wires I don't need and splice in some of the wires that I do need, which sounds easy enough. One of the things going on here is that I got that alternator for that 460, and when I took it all apart for my parts pickup, I kept, holy crap, I kept that mess of snakes there, trying to figure out where the alternator wiring is, because that'd be nice if I could use original plug-ins. I think I have it here. I think these look like alternator plugs to me. It looks like a heat shield or something for the alternator. That looks like the wire that goes up to the solenoid. It looks like a power wire there and that fuse. I need to verify. I think this is the right harness here. And so once again, just peeling stuff back a little bit and trying to figure it out and make something that will work. And I think that mess of crap is probably going to get recycled at some point. So anyway, we're going to keep moving. So next I have to make sure that that other harness is correct. I need to go ahead and pull the alternator, and yes, that's that thing that's on the bottom there. So I need to pull my serpentine belt, and hopefully it will kind of drop out the bottom is what I hope. That'll give me a good way to verify that wiring harness over there is correct, so I cut off the right spot. So we'll get there. It just takes a little bit of time on this wiring side. So I did get the alternator out. I did want to confirm that the plugs I thought went to the alternator did go to the alternator, and sure enough they do. So at least that makes me pretty confident I know what this section of wiring harness is. Actually, it's pretty easy at this point. I should be able to just undo this fuse, or actually even just snip that green wire. If I snip it, of course I'll snip it at a point where be smart to do on the other side of the fuse, and keep that. So that actually will be pretty easy, I think, to go ahead and put into my scenario here. So once again, snip away. I absolutely, positively need to get this list done. It's been a while since I've been able to work on this project, and imagine my surprise when I get back here and the garage fairies did not do anything, not one thing, while I was gone. So I guess it's up to me to do it. So time to reacquaint ourselves with the list and see where we're at, and I think I come up with a couple ways to probably make things a little bit easier. So let's take a look at that list. Not a crazy amount left. So wire Fitech, I think that's about 2/3 done. One of the things I was looking for is to try to get some power to it, and so I think I can pull it off this. It's basically this coil wire. One of the things though I noticed is that, of course, when it's disconnected from the coil, is I do have 12 volts there all day long. When it's connected to the coil and the key's on, it drops quite a bit. I can't remember, 7-8 volts, something like that. So I'm going to tap off of that, run that wire over to a relay, and then take a wire directly from the battery. So that should give me a good clean 12 volt power signal to the Fitech. So that should work. Find out if it doesn't. Wire power through relay for fuel pump. I think it doesn't look real great. It needs to be trained, things like that. I think I largely have that taken care of as well. So double check. I think I can probably check that one off. Verify tank doesn't leak. I think I actually fixed that last time. I'll take one more look. So I think we're good there. Fuel filler hose. Well, it's kind of just poking out because I wanted to put some gas in it. Once again, make sure the tank didn't leak, but I think we can probably set that to the proper depth. So I think that is about done. Verify grounds. Yeah, I think that's a quick check. So we'll take a look at that one. Wire alternator. It's going to sound embarrassing. This one has kind of been holding me up a little bit. I was looking at the existing harness for this pickup and was going to try to make it match for this 91 alternator. I also had some stuff from the harness. I could probably do it easy enough. And then I was actually ordering an alternator for a different project. Ford basically case alternator, but more of the GM one wire style for a different project, like I said. So I thought, why not order one for this? So that should make that a heck of a lot easier. So we'll get that done. Exhaust, I mean, we have basically from our headers to a muffler. Just need to verify some hangers and stuff. Be enough to get it started. And then there's a few of these that will be done right before I start it. I probably won't get it started tonight. So I verify timing. I'll do that. Well, you see prime oil. So I'll take the distributor out, prime it. When I stab the distributor back in, that's when we'll verify the timing of it. And that'll get us ready to go. And then we'll turn the key. And then as far as battery cables, showed the positives crossed off. We still showed negative. But if you see here is my negative cable that is run down there and it's run to the block. So that is actually done. So there's not a heck of a lot of stuff here that needs to be taken care of. So why are we still talking about it and why aren't we doing some of it? That's a great question. All right, here we go. Let's finish her off. Here's that GM style Ford, whoa, what am I even saying? It's the GM one wire style alternator in basically a Ford case. And so once again, you can see one connection there on the back. So I think this might be the easiest way to my alternator. So I think this is 100 amp rated. I think that should be enough. I got some number 6 wire. I have a mega fuse that we'll go ahead and put in there. So I think that'll be the quickest way to get the alternator done and just basically kill this thing. Found out something pretty sweet, something that really super exciting. If you have to do anything with the alternator, you actually have to take the head unit of the blower off in order to get the alternator out. I guess the only good news is that it's actually not too hard to get that blower head unit out, but still it's not the best ever. But we'll make do with it, keep our fingers crossed that we don't have any alternator problems and go from there. I really think that the blower factory is going to totally make up for it in the end, and I'll forget about this little piece of unfortunate news. So keep your fingers crossed for me that that's the way it ends up turning out. Thought I'd check this mounting ear depth real quick. And the reason I did is because this other Tough Stuff alternator that I bought, I noticed that the ear was just slightly short of where the old Ford one was. So I want to check this one. As you can see, this one is slightly short as well. I don't know why you'd try to mount it in a Ford type case and not make that dimension match exactly, but it doesn't. So what I did in the other one I installed is I just found a washer about the right thickness and just put a washer in there. And then it gave me the right spacing, but just something to check out if you're buying one of these one wire alternators from Tough Stuff that supposedly have the Ford mounting ears on the alternator. Here's a quick look at the alternator install before we put the head unit back on. Not a heck of a lot to see, although for whatever reason I have struggled mightily with this. So we have a number 6 wire that's going to this fuse block, a mega fuse that's there on the interior fender. And then we have a cable that number 6 continues on and goes to the solenoid. So go ahead and get our head unit in there and keep buttoning this thing up. I'm about ready to show you something graphic in nature and very well could haunt your dreams for the rest of your life. Before I show you this very graphic thing, I will give you a quick idea of where we're at. So the great news is that I got more stuff checked off the list, ready to take the marker out of the pocket and make that magic mark. So one of those things is wire up the Fitech. Maybe you're seeing where this is going at this point. I have everything just kind of cobbled together pretty fugly, really bad. But I wanted to get it set up in such a way so that I can test on the connections, make sure that things are working, that the fuel pump's triggered, all that sort of stuff, so that you can do a lot of the cleanup stuff later. So, you ready for it? All right, here it is. This is it. Holy crap. This is probably when a lot of you are like, I'm never watching a video from this idiot ever again. So there's our plug-in from our Fitech. I'll be able to hide it a little bit lower beyond or behind that brake booster. I got 2 relays. One of the relays is for the fuel pump. So I have a big power wire that goes to the battery that it gets triggered by orange wire from the Fitech. So it'll power up the pump, which is all wired in. This other one, I didn't have a good switch source of 12 volt from the key. And so it ties into the circuit that went to the distributor, because when that is turned on, was connected to the distributor, it drops down to like 7 or 8 volts. Hopefully it's enough to trigger the relay. And then I ran a clean power signal all the way back to the battery. I was thinking about teeing off maybe from that fuel pump wire, but I got to wire in this MSD box and other things like in phase 2 to get the blower part set up. So I'm going to need more 12 volt. So went ahead and ran a better wire. I got crap cobbled in, taped in a few places. I'll, put some wire loom on it and make it look better. For those wondering what the routing looks like, let's see if we can massage it a little bit. So basically run through the inner fender well. There's kind of that hole there that gets us up on the core support. So then we run the core support all the way over. Once again, I'll put some of that split loom over it. It'll look pretty nice. I've done it in this 72 next to it. Come over here, then it kind of does this mess, this junk right here by the battery until it goes to the starter solenoid. And one of the things, I got a lot of stuff connected there. I don't even know if I need it all connected at this point. I got so much, I can't actually get this wire connected, the one that actually is powering my switch 12 volt. So I think just to test some things out, I think I'll go ahead and do the right thing and vice grip it right here. That'll be pretty nice. And then one of the things you can do, I did in the 72 as well, is you can take a coupling nut that's the right size, and you go ahead and you can put maybe half of the stuff connected to it, put your coupling nut on it, and then you can run a bolt and you can actually connect more things. If you do that, make sure that you don't go so long with your coupling nut that you run into your horn relay, because that would be actually a bad thing. I got all this crap from the alternator that I don't even need most of it. This alternator's in there. Excites with one wire, so this is just a bunch of extra junk. All there's connection to the horn. A lot of it's for the voltage regulator. It's no longer in place. The only reason I have it in here right now is because I need this connector right here, because this is where it gets the power from the battery to go back in the vehicle for all your cab accessories, blah blah blah, whatever. So what a mess. I guarantee you I will clean it up some. But once again, I'm at this stage where I want to test to see if some stuff works. So I'm going to go ahead and I will turn my key to on position. I will go ahead and connect my battery cable, and then I should be able to watch to see if should be able to hear if my pump cycles. I should be able to see if I build any fuel pressure at all. I think there should be a little bit of gas in the tank. And then I should be able to look at my Fitech display to see if it turns on as well. So if that all is good, we're getting pretty dang close at this point. So let's look back at our list here. Wire Fitech. Hey, crappily done, but yes, it's done. Wire power through relay for fuel pump. It's all done up top here. I think, Let's do a quick look. Maybe we'll see it, maybe we won't. Oh, I'm missing a ground wire for my pump, so I'll go ahead and probably make that up real quick, connect it to the frame, real professional like. So I'll have that. That'll totally be done. Good thing I checked. And then what else do I got? Fuel filler hose. It's really crappy right now, but it's good enough for what we need. Verify tank doesn't leak. I actually did that last time, so we're good there. Exhaust, I got stuff to the muffler. Muffler's kind of hanging, be good enough for startup. And then, look at that, verify timing, prime oil. So that would be things that I would do at the same time, largely, is that I would go ahead, pull the distributor, prime it, and then, rotate it around. So, every 90 degrees, prime it some more, make sure we got oil everywhere. And then we'll go ahead and set our base timing and then fire this puppy up. So I'll keep this video just a little bit longer as we just verify this Fitech is going to make all the clicks and beeps and boops and whatever it should do. And then that'll largely be what we need to do for this video. So stay tuned with me just a little bit longer and let's see if my electrical hackery works. Now, I couldn't go ahead and just vice grip that. Like I mentioned earlier, what kind of hack would I be? Probably shouldn't even mention this, but I am actually a licensed electrical engineer. And now you're thinking, and you did all this crap? Yep, I did. Another thing too, I probably should have mentioned is that you probably noticed I don't really have much for fuses on these red power leads going to the solenoid. I do have the fuses. I will connect them, but once again, I want to go ahead and make sure I have all the connections and home runs kind of done, see if it's going to work, and then we'll fine tune it. Moment of truth, key is in the on position. So theoretically, if I take that negative cable, put it on the battery, I should hear the fuel pump priming. I should see this Fitech display come on. Let's see if that's actually what happens. There is the Fitech display. Oh, remember how I said I needed to go ahead and make that ground connection for the fuel pump? Maybe now would be a good time to do that, and this might actually do something. But hey, we got display for the Fitech, so that part is fantastic. Take two. I got my ground connection on my pump. So now, when I make that connection, it should cycle the pump. We should see some pressure. Maybe not this first cycle, but we should get to the point we see some pressure on the gauge. And we've already seen the Fitech screen come on once, so it should do it again. So here we go. You can hear that pump building pressure. Okay. I don't know. Did anybody see that? This thing here just streaming fuel out like crazy? I'm very confused here. What just happened? There was fuel, it squirted all over the floor on this cardboard box and everywhere and made a good mess. Oh, it's just on my welder too. Not a huge deal, right? Okay. We got a problem. Somewheres we have us a problem. So let me figure it out. But good news, we have a fuel pump. We also have a Fitech screen. So once I figure out this magic hose, where it's connected, why it did that, we're gonna be in good shape. Let me figure it out and then we'll give you a little resolution. We can finish it out. Consider me super confused. We all seen that fuel just streaming out of that line like crazy. And so I wasn't even sure what it was until I started tracing it back. And so it was coming out right here. And I thought, well, that shouldn't be connected to any fuel source. So I got back and there's a T. And so it goes to where manifold vacuum is. And then that line continues over and comes to my fuel pressure regulator. So what that's supposed to be is that's the port where when you have boost, it increases the amount of fuel pressure. There should not be any fuel coming out of that whatsoever. Not even remotely close. So just to double check, I went ahead and undid at the T. So there's our line that comes out of the fuel pressure regulator, out of that boost port. And now I have a jug to hopefully catch it before it goes on the ground. So just to maintain my level of craziness, I'm gonna go ahead and connect it again to make sure that's where the fuel is coming from. And then I guess gotta figure out why this brand new Holley regulator isn't working. Something's gotta be goofy. So let's see what happens here. So I got my Fitech on, my pump came on. Did we get fuel? Yeah, we got some fuel. We're building pressure, but we're not holding any pressure. Let's see what happens again. We should have went into a prime. Let me hold it off for just a little bit longer. We should have went into a prime condition. Why do we not have any fuel pump now? What the heck is going on here? Whoa. Super confused. All right, well, I might end this video here. So, yay, we were happy. Now we're confused. Seems like the way these projects go. So once again, we look at the list. We pretty much got it done. We got Fitech wired. We did wire power through the relay for the fuel pump. We did see it come on, although we got this weird now fuel leak out of our boost port. Weird. Fuel filler hose is on temporarily. Tank doesn't leak. Exhaust good enough. So verify timing, prime oil. That would be where we start off. Our next video, as far as getting this thing started. It took me way too long to get this particular video done. This was filmed over a series of, I don't know how many different trips, over probably a year and a half, 2 years at this point. Time is flying by. I don't know where it's going. So I can say that shouldn't have to wait that long. We're so close. I'm getting pretty excited about getting this thing going. It's currently toward the end of January. I really need this thing going probably spring, summer at the absolute latest, because I want to be able to start driving it around. So stay tuned when we go to the next one, which should be the first startup. See you on that one. Thanks for watching.